and awarded the Best Young Researcher Ayurveda Surgery by Rula Awards and nominated for Best Ayurveda Doctor in Bangalore. He is an influential speaker and author of the best Amazon best-selling book, The Blockbuster Health. Sir is currently one of the top-rated Ayurveda consultant on Practo as Chief Medical Officer and Director at Jeevottama Health, Bangalore. Sir is no doubt high in the saddle, and we are very, very proud to have you here on this session today, sir. So now, without any further ado, we will turn the time over to respected Dr. Sharat Kulkarni, sir, to enlighten our minds with his knowledge. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anisha. So today it's like as Principal Sir has already told, Chandramouli sir, that will be talking about or discussing about handling Shalyaja Nadi Prana, that is pilonidal sinus, with Kshara Sutra. So without any delay, I'm going ahead with this presentation, and we'll discuss lots of cases also in between, and then we'll have so much of discussion. First comes first, that is why pilonidal sinus. Everyone might have doubts, or you would have gone ahead with fistula, you would have gone ahead with anal fissure, you would have gone ahead with piles or hemorrhoids. Why pilonidal sinus? So the reason here is it is commonly seen in OPD, and most of the pilonidal sinus cases, once they are operated, they usually come to the Ayurveda OPD. And what I have seen in my surrounding places, like in my surrounding area in Bangalore, is some of them tend to refer pilonidal sinus cases to Ayurveda surgeons because already they would have been operated once or twice or thrice or 4 times, or the fresh cases also. And then a general Ayurveda practitioner will not be able to handle it. Maybe they'll handle it by oral medications for a couple of months or couple of weeks, post which they tend to refer the case to a Ayurveda surgeon. So in order to make sure that they treat this case or they treat their own case without any referral, so we are going ahead with a study on pilonidal sinus. And then the third one is high recurrence rate, as I have already mentioned. Even after a couple of surgeries, once, twice, or thrice also, we have seen that there have been a recurrence of pilonidal sinus either in the same spot or the half spot covering it and the half spot above or below it, which I'll be showing through the images. And then we have a very good tool, hallmark of Ayurveda surgery, known as Kshara Sutra, so which is very good in managing, treating, and even curing pilonidal sinus. So that's why pilonidal sinus topic has been taken. So this is the first main important question. Then comes pilonidal sinus. So what all I'm going to deal here and what all we are going to discuss is one thing which I want to tell you all. So first we'll see what is pilonidal sinus, etiopathogenesis of pilonidal sinus, and also the allopathic, that is the modern treatment, the surgical treatment, the various modalities of surgeries, various surgeries which are being conducted on pilonidal sinus. And then we'll have Shalyaja Nadi Vrana, the description of Shalyaja Nadi Vrana, and then we'll have the Samanya Chikitsa, that is the general line of treatment for Shalyaja Nadi Vrana or so-called pilonidal sinus in this case, and also the Kshara Sutra, which is the main attraction that will be dealt at the last, so that you will remember it more number of days, including this also, and then you will adopt that that into your treatment aspect. So pilonidal sinus is the sinus, what we call, is a blind tract which extends from the skin to the deeper tissue, and it is lined by granulation tissue or epithelium. So here what happens, since we are specifically talking about pilonidal sinus, so the broken off hair tend to collect in the natal cleft, which eventually penetrates the skin and forms pilonidal sinus. So here we are specifically talking about a pilonidal sinus which occurs in the natal cleft, that is in the sacrococcygeal region. Pilonidal sinus is a tunnel or sinus in the skin. It may be filled with pus, causing formation of cyst. So as you can see in this image, the below image, we have the cyst which contains the hair and the fluid, and then it is connected to the skin, if you can see. And then there is a small tract which we call as sinus, which is a blind tract. So the derivation of the term pilonidal is from the Greek. It has the Greek origin, wherein the two terms are here, pilus and then the nidus. Pilus here means the hair, which was which dislodges in the nest. So pilus is hair and nidus is nest. And there are some synonyms for pilonidal sinus called as jeeper's bottom or jeep bottom or driver's bottom. The reason behind this is the extensive number of incidences or the cases of pilonidal sinus during the Second World War. During the Second World War, there were so many people who used to drive the jeep to the war place or from the war place towards to pick the victims or towards to pick the drop the soldiers to the war place. So during this time, what happened was everyone was driving extensively the jeep or any kind of four-wheeler, we can take it as. And then there was a new kind of disease which was termed as pilonidal sinus, because they came to know that men who are usually hairy and then who tend to drive the jeep, they had a certain kind of cyst in their natal cleft, which eventually had pain, pus discharge, and then the tract, and it was termed as pilonidal sinus. So this was the whole agenda behind telling it as a jeep bottom or driver's bottom. Coming to the common sites, as I already mentioned, so the sacral region between the buttocks is a region about which we are going to talk today. Of course, there are other regions also, umbilicus, axilla, interdigit, and then as our respected principal sir already mentioned that there was a case wherein he saw it in the breast also. So all these sites, there are chances of pilonidal sinus, and as you can see, the P is the primary sinus, and then the S is the secondary sinus, which are away from the cleft. Which is on the cleft is primary, which is away from the cleft is secondary. So typically a patient would be presenting to the OPD in this manner itself. Whoever are like in the final year, whoever are pursuing their internship, whoever are in their post-graduation, whoever are practicing already, anyone who is going to sit in the OPD, and everyone is going to sit in the OPD, has to sit in OPD is what I feel, would be seeing one or the other case of pilonidal sinus in their clinical practice. And the typical presentation of pilonidal sinus in which the patient would be presenting is this image, wherein we'll see a small opening in the natal cleft, and then besides it there would be secondary sinus, sometimes above it or below it also, and it usually is in and around 2 to 3 centimeters maximum. Very rare cases, of course, exceptional cases are always there. There, it may be more than 3 centimeters. Now, coming to the incidence, which is very important. So, 26 in 1 lakh population is like the incidence rate of pilonidal sinus. And then, when it comes to the incidence with respect to the age, it is usually in the teenage. So, it starts from like 11, 12, or 13 years, wherein the hair starts growing, and then it is like around 20 to 25 years of old men or the people would be suffering from pilonidal sinus. And then when it comes to the incidence with respect to gender, then male is to female ratio is again 4:1, as already reminded by our respected principal. And as I have already mentioned, is common, very common in hairy men. So next is, what is the content of pilonidal cyst? As we already saw in the image in the previous slide, the hairs, dirt, and debris. So these are the contents, main primary contents of a pilonidal cyst. So when a patient visits OPD, he'll be in a position wherein you will be able to palpate a hard cyst or a kind of abscess on the surface, wherein it would be usually inflamed and red and tender. So once you touch it, it will be painful. And sometimes a hair may be protruding out from it, just like peeping out from that opening. So this confirms the pilonidal sinus. And then again, this here you can see the pilonidal cyst and the opening area where the cyst may form, the pilonidal cyst may form in the sacrococcygeal region, and then the normal epithelium, that is the skin. And then the bone. So complications of pulmonary sinus when we'll be talking about it. So sometimes it may reach the bone also. That is very like tedious to handle, and it definitely requires surgery that time. But most of the pulmonary sinuses are superficial itself and can be handled easily without surgery. And then again, one more image, the older image itself, which is magnified here. So the sinus tract, the skin, the fluid, which can be pus, serous fluid, or serosanguinous. It may be mixed with blood also, or it may be purulent or pus also. So the hair, tuft of hair also, you can see the exact term which has to be mentioned here is the tuft of the hair, and this is pilonidal cyst. So when it comes to pathogenesis, as we usually see this pilonidal sinus, the pathogenesis here, the hair penetrates the skin, which in turn gives rise to dermatitis and then infection. There is a pustule formation. From pustule, there is a sinus formation, and hair gets stuck into the sinus by negative pressure because of the vacuum. So since there is a sinus and there is a space there, there would be a negative pressure which would be generated. So the hair itself gets stuck inside, and then there will be further irritation and granulation tissue formation, pus formation, and multiple discharging sinus. So this is how the pathogenesis of pilonidal sinus goes. Clinical features, very important. Any of the patient would be presenting with discharge, there is serosanguinous, serous, or purulent discharge, as I already mentioned, clear discharge, or else bloody discharge, or else pus discharge, or mixture of all these would be the prime indication, or would be the prime diagnostic criteria towards pilonidal sinus or provisional diagnosis. Then the pain, throbbing and persistent. There would be sometimes pricking kind of pain. There would be sometimes cutting type of pain. Usually there will be pricking type of pain because of the persistence, or because of the existence of pus. Tender swelling above the coccyx in the midline, that is primary sinus, and either sides of the midline, that is secondary sinus, as we already saw in the previous slide. Tuft of hair may be seen in the opening of the sinus. It may be popping out. Recurrent infection, abscess formation which bursts open, forming recurrent sinus with pain, discharge, and discomfort. So basically, a patient or a sufferer or the subject would be having discomfort. They'll not mention exactly what is happening. They'll not be able to mention what is happening. There will be discomfort, and this discomfort, they may term as burning sensation. They may term it as throbbing pain, as if someone is sitting inside and pricking in the sacrococcygeal region, or sometimes tenderness. So all these things makes a clinician to go and examine the site properly in order to check whether this is a pilonidal cyst or the pilonidal sinus. So as you can see, there is a pilonidal abscess from which there is pus discharge happening after a small intervention. And tuft of hair from the opening of sinus also can be seen here. So about this we'll be discussing in the further slides also. Now the complications of pilonidal sinus, like chronic pilonidal sinus, may occasionally cause sacral osteomyelitis, necrotizing fasciitis, and rarely meningitis. So these are all the occasional cases or rare cases. So that's how it may turn the pilonidal sinus into high mortality rate because of meningitis, or else it can be usually morbid because of high recurrence rate. It will usually trouble the routine of the sufferer or the subject. It would be troubling the daily routine. It would be troubling their mindset. It would be troubling their physical health also because of recurrent discomfort and irritation. So these are the complications. Now, once we tell that the recurrence rate is high even after the treatment or even after the surgery in pilonidal sinus, then it's our prime duty to analyze the cause for high recurrence rate. And the prime cause is improper removal. So what happens is, if the tuft of the hair remains inside, only the pus is removed, then the patient or the subject will feel very good, and they'll tell that, wow, doctor, you have done a great job, and then a couple of weeks later, again, since the hair, tuft of hair is inside, again there would be the same pathogenesis, and again it will be sucked inside, again there will be pus discharge. So that's why we can see even the high recurrence rate because of improper removal. Overlooking of existing diverticulum, so seems to be like if there is any underlying disease, any primary condition which is not taken care, and directly if we treat the pilonidal sinus, then there are all the possibilities that because of the existing diverticulum, if we have neglected it, then it will be recurring back again. Entry of new tuft of hairs definitely has to be taken care by the subject or the sufferer itself. Post surgery or post Charasutra or post treatment, they have to always keep the area clean by trimming the area regularly, say once in 3 weeks or once in 4 weeks, so that there is no entry of new tuft of hairs causing recurrence of pilonidal sinus. And then the breakage of the scar, which we usually see in the post-surgical cases, once the surgery is performed, and then after a couple of months, we say 6 months usually is what we have seen in the clinical practice. Post 6 months, since the scar, and then since it is a non-bony prominence area, all the possibilities that the scar may break, and again there may be a pilonidal sinus. Coming to the investigations part, in pilonidal sinus, though we don't prefer it much because it is very much visible. Only thing is in order to rule out the complications, in order to rule out the deeper tissue invasion of the pilonidal sinus, we have to always scan or screen the patient or the subject or the sufferer with MRI or CT scan of the sacrococcygeal region, X-ray, and sometimes ultrasonography also. Of course, these investigations are usually or mainly to rule out complications rather than to confirm the diagnosis, because confirmation of the diagnosis can be done through proper examination, maybe inspection, palpation, or probing. Probing is very important in pilonidal sinus. So when it comes to the treatment part of the contemporary science in the acute phase, the drainage of abscess and antibiotics, which is usually given. So this is the drainage of the abscess, wherein you can see the serosanguinous purulent discharge, which is mixed with the blood, which is just spilling out from the abscess. And then post this, there would be antibiotics which would be administered. Definitive treatment includes excision and primary closure done under GA, that is general anesthesia, or local anesthesia in prone position. Jackknife position, prone with buttocks elevated. All sinus tracts, unhealthy granulation tissues with hairs are completely removed. Methylene blue is injected to demonstrate multiple tracts properly. So pilonidal sinus and fistula, are such of the rare conditions in which surgery is extensive or surgery is not very much minimal. There is always a theory of minimal cutting or minimal scarring surgery, which we have to bypass when we are going ahead with the excision of pilonidal sinus and fistula in maybe fistulectomy, because if at all there is anything which is left over, then it is like creating a pathway for recurrence. Excision and skin grafting again has got high recurrence rate because of the breakage of the scar or wound dehiscence. Excision with Z-plasty, which is being practiced these days in the contemporary science. Cardiac is excision through a semilateral incision and lateralized suturing of the wound away from the midline gives good results. So since this is the midline, if we cut here, there are all the possibilities that it can be undergoing recurrence. So what they do is they go ahead with the lateralized incision. From here, they access the tuft of the hair from the lateralized incision, and then from there, the tuft of the hair could be easily extracted. Excision with closure using Limburg or rhomboid buttock flap, again, has got good results, but definitely has recurrence. Bascom technique of excision through lateral approach, again, kind of cardiac is excision itself is a good method. Through a small lateral incisions, 2 to 4 mm sized sinus is approached and pus is drained, hairs are removed with only minimal excision of sinus. Cavity walls are not excised. Lateral small wounds are either sutured or left open for spontaneous healing. As I already mentioned, if this is the midline, then from the lateral approach, we go ahead and treat the or intervene the pylonal sinus. But of course, there would be all the possibilities of recurrence because of the non-excision or incomplete excision of the tract. So Z-plasty, some of the images very clear cut showing Z-plasty, wherein post excision there would be suturing also. Z-plasty, there has been good results, but somewhere the sufferer or the subject would go into a bad mindset or kind of depression because of extensive excision of the tissues. So they usually start feeling hollowness in the area because of extensive excision, and this is Z-plasty. So how this other defect is repaired. If you can see in this image, there is a defect. Then through the Z-plasty, it is repaired. And rhomboid Limburg flap for pylonal sinus is semi-Z-plasty kind of surgery for the pylonal abscess cum pylonal sinus. So in the G image, you can clearly see in the F image, you can clearly see the rhomboid flap which is placed, and then in the G image, it is sutured. And since there is a flap creation, again there are possibilities of wound dehiscence and secondary infection, which may give rise to a new pylonal sinus or the existing pylonal sinus also. Then when it comes to prevention, more than non-operative treatment, I call this as prevention, or the precautions which are to be taken by a person who has either undergone Ksara Sutra or undergone surgery or undergone any kind of treatment for pylonal sinus, though there are no other treatments for pylonal sinus except Ksara Sutra and to a certain extent surgery. Regular shaving or trimming of the natal cleft, and which has to be done to have a meticulous hair control. So again, I want to repeat it since it's very important, because it has to be advised to each and every subject or the sufferer or so-called patient. Because if this is not done and if you do any kind of treatment, there are all the possibilities that the blame will come on the surgeon or the clinician, because usually they'll tell that, no doctor, you didn't perform the procedure well. So it is very much important that we have to always trim the area, and then proper perineal hygiene, may it be through sitz bath, may it be through proper cleansing with the brush or cleansing with the hand, whatever it is, but proper perineal hygiene has to be maintained. Drainage of abscess if occurs, and antibiotics as per the contemporary science. And then switching to the Nadi Prana concept, which is very well explained by Acharya Sushruta in Sushruta Samhita. And the Shalya, or the foreign body which enters the Tvagadi Dhatu, leads to Shalyaja Nadi Prana. It persists due to presence of Shalya like Bala, and continuous pus discharge is seen. This is explained in 10th chapter of Nidhanasana, that is the 8 types of Nadi Prana are explained by Acharya Sushruta. And then in the 17th Chikitsasana, 17th chapter of Chikitsasana, there are various modalities like Ksara Sutra, Varti, Lepa in the management of Nadi Prana. So very brief about Nadi Prana. Nadi Prana is a type of Dushta Prana which manifests due to untimely mismanagement. So you can see here 2 things are involved: untimely and mismanagement. 2 things are there. So the only thing why this is mentioned here is, or these kinds of contrary words are mentioned, is basically it is because of immaturity of the clinician or negligence of the clinician in timely management of Vrana Shopha. Since the Vrana involves deep tissues or deeper tissues and forms a tract, it is called as Nadi Vrana. Nadi is a tubular structure. That's why this is a tube kind. It's named as Nadi as it is analogous to tubular structure or hollow in shape, as mentioned by Acharya Sushruta. Excess Puyasrava from Vrana involves deeper tissues forming tracts in different directions, hence called Nadi. When many Nadi are formed, it is called as Gati. Also, as per senior Vagvata, that is Ashtanga Sangraha, It is also called as Gati. So, very clear cut Nidana explained by Sushruta in Nidana Sana. If an ignorant surgeon considers Pakva Shopa as Apakva and delays Bhedana and drainage of pus, or if the pus is not drained from Vrana having excess pus discharge, pus involves and necroses deeper tissues, Abhyantara Gamana, and forms a tract or a nadi. So, pus or puya has always got the tendency to erode the deeper structures or Abhyantara Gamana of puya. That's why it is very important that we differentiate the Pakva Shopa and Apakva Shopa and then do the Bhedana. That is what we usually call as incision and drainage. So that has to be done on time. Samprapti of Nadi Vrana, neglected Pakva Shopa, which results into excess of Puya Srava and Puya Abhyantara Gamana, eroding the deeper structures, deeper tissues, destroys Vranasthana and then formation of Nadi Vrana. So Sankhya Samprapti, coming to the Sankhya Samprapti of Nadi Vrana as per Acharya Sushruta, Vataja, Pittaja, Kafaja, Vata Pitta, Vata Kapha, Pitta Kapha, Sannipada and Shaleja. As per Ashtanga Sangraha, Vata Pitta Kapha, Sannipadaja and Shaleja. Shaleja is also called as Agantuja since it is having external reason. So Agantuja or Shaleja Nadi Vrana, which is the topic of discussion today. Again, if Shalya in Tvagadi Sthanas is not removed, leads to the formation of Nadi Vrana. And here the Srava or the discharge is Fenila, Matita, Swachha, Ushna and Rakta Mishrita. Very clear cut explanation, very much pointing towards the so-called explanation of pilonidal sinus, or more than that actually, and associated with Satata Vedana, continuous throbbing pain. Clear cut explanation of pilonidal sinus and Krichra Sadhya, since there is high recurrence rate and since there is involvement of Shastra Chikitsa, that's why Krichra Sadhya also. Coming to the Chikitsa part of Nadi Vrana, Nadi Vrana has to be probed. Gatim Anvishya Shastrena Apatya Karmavi. It has to be probed properly to understand the Gati of the Nadi. And then it has to be incised with Shastra, subjected to Shodhana and Ropana, and then Vranavat Chikitsa, as per Chakrapani Datta in the Chakradatta 45/1. Very clearly he has mentioned that it has to be investigated or probed first to see the directions and then incised with the Shastra and then subjected to Ropana and Shodhana and Ropana as per the Vranavat Chikitsa. Shalya Nadi Vrana Chikitsa, Bhedana of the Shalya Marga and Shalya Nirharana, extraction of the Shalya. Here in this case it is the bala or tuft of the hairs. Shodhana of Nadi Marga, Vrana Shodhana and Vrana Ropana using mixtures of Tilakalka, Madhu Gruta, Taila prepared of Kashaya of Kharchura, Kapitta, Bilva, Vata, Udumbara, Plakshaparisha and Kalka of Mustapriyangu, Utpala, etc. are to be used for application post the Shodhana of Nadi Marga. Coming to the heart of the discussion, that is Kshara Sutra in pilonidal sinus. Again, question number 1 and question number last also. Why Kshara Sutra? So simple, safe and less painful procedure for pilonidal sinus. Please take this word. It is only for pilonidal sinus. When it is for fistula, it may be painful, and this less painful statement wouldn't go good with fistula. Simple, safe and less painful, and it is absolutely a OPD procedure. That's why Kshara Sutra in pilonidal sinus. Point number 2 or justification number 2, the tuft of hairs come out easily during thread change. Once we are changing the thread, since we are following the railroad technique, wherein we'll tie the new Kshara Sutra knot to the old Kshara Sutra knot itself or the old primary thread knot, and then we pull it in the railroad technique. There are all the possibilities that we will see the tuft of the hairs coming out, at least partial tuft of hairs coming out during each and every Kshara Sutra change, because the knot has to pass inside and it will be coming out. It will definitely carry some of the tuft of hairs or partial tuft of hairs. So that is the whole agenda behind surgery, why we have to go so deep? We have to go and search tuft of hairs. We have to just extract them, excise, and extract. The same thing can be done with Kshara Sutra with a very minimally invasive technique. No scope for further infection due to presence of Kshara. Since there is presence of Kshara, there will be no secondary infections. So, or there will be no chances of secondary infections because there is alkali present there. Recurrence rate is almost nil if we perform it methodically, and unaffected routine of the sufferer, very important point. That's why the sufferer would be preferring Ayurveda over any other science in the treatment of pilonidal sinus, even though if they have been already operated, even though they have already been medicated a couple of times, multiple times by various sciences. Why they will opt Ayurveda is we assure them of unaffected routine. They can definitely, after the procedure, after a couple of minutes, 20-25 minutes, they can directly go to their job, they can directly go to their home, they can start working, whatever they were doing, they can just continue that post the Kshara Sutra. So unaffected routine of the sufferer is very important. There is no bed rest, there is no admission, there is no any kind of like IV infusions, nothing. They can just come to the OPD and get it done, and they can just go to their work back. And then absolute indications of Kshara Sutra, if Nadi Vrana is manifested in Krusha Durbala Bhiru, and if it is in the Marmasthana, then Kshara Sutra is to be used for treatment, as Shastra is contraindicated. And pilonidal, and this was mentioned in Ayurveda. And these days, when we start treating people, we usually analyze that most of them, I'm not telling all of them, most of them are Durbala, Bhiru, and Krusha. Of course, Krishna may not be there. Durbala and Bhiru, most of them are there. They are having a strange kind of fear. They are not having the strong mindset. So definitely we can use Kshara Sutra for all of them, or most of them, majority of them. Coming to the mechanism of action of Kshara Sutra, again, very important, maybe asked by the guardian of the sufferer or the subject, or maybe the sufferer itself. How can you claim that Kshara Sutra is going to work? Then we have the theory and practical, both, wherein there will be debridement of unhealthy tissue and excision of the tract. Both will take place. That is, cutting and healing will take place simultaneously, which we cannot appreciate in any other modality of surgery or treatment. Mechanical pressure facilitates cutting of the tract, thus causes complete excision. So this is how the Kshara Sutra works in pilonidal science. Very briefly, going ahead with the procedure of Kshara Sutra, wherein pre-op, that is, Kshara Sutra is a operation itself. Kshara Sutra is a procedure itself, though it is minimally invasive, though it is going to be a OPD procedure, but it is having its own guidelines, and we have to treat it like any other surgery. So very clearly, pre-op evaluation is must. Go ahead with all the pre-op tests, may it be CBC, BTCT, RBS, FBS, PPBS, HbA1c, HIV, HbSAg, etc., whichever is required for the sufferer or the subject. More than that, if the sufferer is having any cardiac history or any other systemic illness, then take care that you obtain a physician fitness before going ahead with Kshara Sutra, either for pilonidal sinus or even for fistula in ano. Also, it's very important. Written informed consent from the time of Sushruta, it is very important. Written informed consent to the sufferer and to the guardian or the attender. It's very important. Part preparation, wherein we have to completely shave the area, either 12 to 24 hours before the surgery or maybe the previous day. Injection of TT, usually we prefer 0.5 ml. Please read it as 0.5 ml. IM, and then lignocaine test dose, if at all the person is very sensitive to pain. Usually for pilonidal sinus, 75% or 80% of the cases, I don't use local anesthesia. We usually use surface anesthesia, wherein we just spray the lignocaine 10% spray, which is readily available and easily available. If at all we have to plan for local anesthesia injection. Then we have to go ahead with lignocaine sensitivity test dose, or else also it's better if you just do and keep it. Very important. So these are the pre-operative steps which we have to go ahead with during or before performing Kshara like clearly told in Agropaharaniya. Operative, then the position is very important. That is the Pradhana Karma. That was a Purva Karma, Pradhana Karma, jackknife position or prone position. Local anesthesia or surface analgesia, which is a part of local anesthesia. Painting and draping, cleaning of debris, removal of visible hairs and debris with pus can be done easily. And then again, the sub part of the Pradhana Karma, probing has to be done by the Shalaka, preferably a Rajata Shalaka, that is the silver one, or else the Panchaloha Shalaka, which is again easily available in the Ayurveda shops or in the Ayurveda colleges. Primary thread is inserted. The definition of primary thread here is the surgical thread or the Barber's thread, number 20, which has to be just wiped with either the betadine or can be kept plain also, which can be kept in the UV cabinet, is inserted into the eye of the probe and passed through the tract. So while probing, one important thing is resistance. We have to feel the resistance, like avoid creating false tracts, which is very dangerous. So the resistance has to be felt. That's one more reason why we don't prefer local anesthesia, because patient will be, or the sufferer will be very much comfortable, and then there are some possibilities that we may end up creating false tracts, since there is no particular image which is taken before surgery. If MRI and everything is done, it's fine. If you are going ahead with probing with just pre-op evaluation and physician fitness and cardiac fitness, then it's important that you go slowly and steadily, feel the resistance, and then just wherever you feel the resistance, you can stop there instead of going ahead more. Primary thread is inserted into the eye of the probe and passed through the tract. Probe is removed from the distal end of the tract. The definition of distal end of the tract here is where the resistance is felt. If at all it is open, that's absolutely fine. If not, just a small little bit of pressure would definitely open it up. Very rare cases under anesthesia, we may have to give a nick, small nick with a 11 number blade, and then the probe would be passed out of the distal end and then leaving behind the thread in the tract intact. After 3 days of the Kshara after 3 days, the Kshara is tied. After 3 days of the primary threading, Kshara is tied through the railroad technique. This is the standardized days, which is done through the extensive research from Dr. P.J. Deshpande sir of DHU, and then Kshara is tied firmly outside the tract. After that, every week we usually change the Kshara till the tract is cut completely. On an average, we usually see that pilonidal sinus takes around approximately 4 weeks or maximum 5 weeks to completely cut and heal. So this is very important procedure, because since this is more of clinician oriented or the practitioner oriented procedure, so very much important that you get a probe, sterilize it properly, or keep it in UV cabinet, and then or keep it in sterilium also, that's fine, and then just go ahead with the probing. And then once the resistance is felt, stop there. If the probe, if there is some opening, usually there will be an opening, and then if you little bit gently exert some pressure, then the distal end of the tract can be easily pierced through the probe. And then primary threading is the normal thread which has to be inserted. Normal thread is not Kshara. It is just surgical thread number 20, Barber's thread, which has to be inserted. After which it has to be tied properly. Watch for missing of the thread, because sometimes because of the moisture, sweat, hairs, pus, blood, sometimes the thread tends to misplaced. It tend to be misplaced, or the knot may open by itself and it may go off, slip off. You should just educate the patient or educate the attender regarding this, and then they have to just feel it every time, or attender can just see it every time, and make sure that the thread is present. After 3 days, they have to visit the OPD again, just change it to Kshara Sutra, replace it by Kshara Sutra in just a couple of minutes, say 5 to 8 minutes or 10 minutes maximum, with a very minimal pain. And this time there will be no need of any kind of anesthesia. It can be done with just surface analgesia, that is the spraying of 10% lignocaine, if the sufferer is too much sensitive to pain. Kshara Sutra is tied, and then every week we have to change the Kshara Sutra. So this is Kshara Sutra in situ in pilonidal sinus sufferer, and can see easily the ends are just like made or removed with from the Kshara Sutra, so that it will not irritate the surrounding skin, the edges or the ends. After the knot is tied, make sure that you just use a artery forceps and then just remove the Kshara which is on the ends, so that it will not irritate the edges. And then Paschat Karma, here medications would be going on, and sits bath is very important. So many sufferers would be having a question of if we take sits bath, then all the possibilities that we'll have reduced effect, we'll have the thread misplaced and all. So nothing like that. You can just go ahead with sits bath. Since we are going to change the thread in next 7 days, it's absolutely fine. But just make sure that there is no water left there, or no kashaya in the sits bath is left there. Usually we prefer sits bath with lukewarm plain water for 5 minutes a day, that too in the severe painful cases, or else it is just 2 to 3 minutes just to clean the area, keep it clean. And then internally Triphala Gugulu and Gandhaka Rasayana would be the choice of medicines for the pilonidal sinus. So couple of cases which were treated in our OPD by our team, me and my team. 33-year-old male who presented with pain and discomfort with pus discharge at the tailbone area since 6 months. Thorough examination, Kshara Sutra was done, like after diagnosing it as pilonidal sinus, just cut it short. So this was during the Kshara Sutra. The first image, the cut image, is the second one, and the third one is the heel tract, wherein even the scar breakage will also be avoided if we go ahead with Kshara Sutra, because very minimal scar when compared to the extensive surgeries. So scar breakage will not be there, again reducing the chances of recurrence. Case number 2, 23-year-old male who presented with recurrence of pilonidal sinus post operation, that is 5 years. He was from Andhra, and on examination the opening was present with no pus discharge, but tenderness was present, and he wanted to go ahead with Kshara Sutra because he wanted a permanent solution. And because once he visited the old hospital where he was operated, again he was advised surgery, so he was against it, or he was not willing for it. So he happened to attend the Ayurveda OPD, wherein again Kshara Sutra was done. So it was successfully done. And then the case 3, wherein you can see before treatment there is a secondary sinus and a primary sinus, which is clearly visible, 1.5 centimeters approximately, or 1.2 centimeters, and probing and primary threading. This is the utilization of Gugulu based Apamarga Kshara Sutra, one of the research work which was done, which is also published. I'll be sharing the link later. Tuft of hair which is removed during the thread change, track completely cut and healed. So this was in the IAMJ journal, which was done by Dr. Mayur and the team in 2017, and the publication was in 2018. One more case, again the research article itself, wherein removal of visualized hairs and then tying of or ligation of Kshara Sutra. So here there is little bit of excision also, so this can be done definitely, partial excision and then ligation of Kshara Sutra, so that visible tuft of hairs can be removed easily, and then we can just assure the sufferer that these are the tuft of hairs which are removed. And you can easily see in the first image, removal of visualized hairs, it's being easily extracted by the artery forceps, mosquito. It's very evident. So this was also published by Dr. Abhineet Raina et al. So it was Palasha Kshara Sutra. The first one was Gugulu based Apamarga Kshara Sutra, which I was talking about, Dr. Mayur. So one more important part of Nadi Prana, Varti Prayoga, which has to be used usually post Ksharasutra in the faster healing of Vrana, and some of them opt for the main treatment of Ksharasutra, main treatment of Shalya Nadi Vrana through the Varti itself, bypassing the Ksharasutra. But in my practice, I have seen that it's better if we use Varti post Ksharasutra, wherein it will be exclusively for healing purpose. Among them, Gontaphaladi Varti, and we have Jatyadi Varti, we have Saindavadi Varti, Vibhitakadi Varti, which can be prepared and can be used for better healing or faster healing of the cut track. Or else we can definitely use just Jatyadi Taila also. So for the further references, we can always go ahead with our authentic surgery text, Sushruta Samhita, and then if at all for the contemporary science reference, SRBs or Bailey and Love, and then for the compiled text, Rajneesh Giri and Shantanu, that is Anant Kumar Shikokar sir and Kanchana Shikokar sir. So that's all from my side. So thank you very much for being patient and heard all the presentation. If you have any queries, please go ahead with it. And I thank Chandramouleshwara sir and team, like maybe Dr. Akhil, upcoming Dr. Anisha and the team, from my team, Dr. Usha Rao, who have supported in this presentation. So thank you very much for being with me. Open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for taking your time to prepare for us such an extraordinary, wonderful presentation, which was incredibly informative. We shall now go ahead to the question and answer session. Delegates can post your questions in the chat box. Delegates, if you have any queries, you can post your questions in the chat box. Now we have a participant who has raised her hand. Dr. Rita, you can unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, doctor, I just wanted to ask, I had one patient, she had a opening of the fistula near anal region, but
Okay.
fistulogram or nothing else was done. And it was not possible since it was painful and the opening was so small that I couldn't put the probe also inside. And I could feel the tract also. So in such case, I had given Jatyadi Tel Basti, Jatyadi and Yashtimadu Tail Basti, and I had given internal the Trifla, Shukshma Trifla and everything. And with that, she now the thing is totally healed and no serious discharge is also coming. And I'm not feeling the tract also and no pain also. So what should I understand? Whether it is completely healed or there must be pus inside, because she has no complaint practically now.
Got it. Thank you very much, Dr. Rita, for the question. And very much practical question. Like in the general Ayurveda practice, we see such kind of cases, definitely. So what I would like to tell here is, fistula in, couple of years ago also I have made a couple of videos wherein I have clearly mentioned that fistula in, definitely demand either Ksharasutra or surgery because the track has to be cut, point number one. Point number two, medical management, whatever you have done, the Taila Purna, which we call it, or the Matra Basti with Jatyadi Taila and Esti Madhu Taila, or Madhu Esti Taila. That is absolutely right, the medical management. But what I would like to tell you is, if you go ahead with a transrectal ultrasonography, TRUS, or endorectal sonography, you will be able to locate the track properly, and with little bit of next step or little bit of next intervention, you can just probe it and see. Because what I want to tell here is the internal opening would be present, is what I am feeling in the patient. If the internal opening is present, if you can see my hand, if this is the anal opening and if the internal opening is somewhere at 6 o'clock here, just assumption. And if at all the patient is like, definitely the patient would be going ahead with defecation process daily, and then there would be the accumulation of the feces into the internal opening slowly, over a period of time, couple of weeks or couple of months, absolutely individual dependent. It is dependent on every individual. Some may experience this in 4-5 weeks, or some may experience this in 4-5 months, or some may experience it in 1-2 years also, but definitely they'll experience it. Once there is feces which is dislodged in the internal opening, very small opening, then what happens is the infection process starts. Because of the infection, because of the bacterial growth, because of the microbial growth, there would be phagocytosis there, and then because of that there will be pus formation, the dead bacteria, and then the pus would be discharged. Again the person will have pain, again it will be relieved because of some medical treatment, again he'll be fine or she'll be fine, again after a couple of months, weeks, again it will come. So this cycle has to be broken, this chain has to be broken. So for that, I would definitely recommend that. I can feel that you can definitely do it. You already tried probing it. The whole term of probe itself is like trying. It is just an investigation whether the track is present or not. And very good that you have palpated the track here. So I would personally suggest you to go ahead with the transrectal ultrasonography or MRI fistulogram, whichever you feel like, once maybe this lockdown is done or once the situation is feasible, and then educate the patient and the guardian, and go ahead with a simple procedure of the probing post physician fitness or post pre-op evaluation. Then definitely you will be able to see that there is no such kind of like weekly visit, or patient is visiting once in 4 months, 5 months with a pus discharge, or maybe once in a year also. And then once it is cut completely, once the track is excised completely through the Kshara Sutra, definitely you continue with the Matra Basti with Jatyadi Taila and Madhu Eshti Taila, that is Taila Purana, or Matra Basti itself, and it will be definitely beneficial for the faster healing also. I hope I have answered your question, Dr. Rita.
Thank you, sir. There's a question in the chat box. What medicines can be given in case where there's no need of Kshara Sutra application?
Okay. Whoever has asked this question, thank you for the question. And one important thing is, again, I'm going to repeat it: fistula in ano or Bagandhara, Shailaja Nadivrana or pilonidal sinus definitely demands either Kshara Sutra or surgery at one or the other point of time. For the medical management, we can go ahead with Triphala Gugulu and Gandhaka Rasayana depending on the age of the patient, bala of the patient, definitely. But over a period of time, you would need to excise the track completely, either by Kshara Sutra or by surgery. And being into the Ayurveda, we would definitely prefer Kshara Sutra. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to next question. How can we be sure if all hair or debris is removed? How important is clearing the sinus or tract important in avoiding recurrence?
It's very important. So how can you make sure is, see, if this is the track and then you have tied the Kshara Sutra, it will be completely open once the Kshara Sutra is done. Okay, I'm not telling you to do it during the primary and probing, primary threading itself, probing and primary threading stage itself. You do it slowly. Once the Kshara Sutra is completed, or once maybe in the midway of the Kshara Sutra, you'll be able to see the whole complete excised tract. It's very evident. That time also you can be definitely going ahead with cleansing the wound with either Panchavalkala Kashaya or Triphala Kashaya. Or if you are okay with using betadine, you can also use betadine. Cannot be against it. So that time, if you clean it, it's very important. If you won't clean it, then you are just giving the way for recurrence.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to next question. In abscess stage, in a single sitting, can we do I and D and Kshara Sutra together or with 2 sittings?
Definitely, please do it in the single sitting itself. Please take care that you have followed proper protocol. OPD procedure doesn't mean you will just come, just came off, just cut it, remove pus, put the thread. No, do it properly. Do it in a way. I always use this. I don't know the analogy, or we call it as a joke also. Always, if you are drunk a cup of tea in some 5-star or 7-star hotel, just see the ambience, see the facilities, see the way they serve the tea. Even though it is a cup of tea, you'll be served it in a proper way. So follow the same technique, like how we do it for any kind of surgery. Follow the same technique for even Sharasutra, and to a greater extent, I would even suggest, with due respect to our principal Chandramodeshwara sir, even Panchakarma procedure should be done in the similar way. We have to go ahead with pre-op analysis completely, analyze the patient completely, investigate all the blood parameters, if required, the cardiac parameters, everything you have to evaluate, anesthesia, anesthetist evaluation, cardiac evaluation, physician fitness, and then you go ahead with the procedure. That would be always good.
Thank you very much, sir, for answering all the questions. It was great listening to you, sir. I express my heartfelt gratitude to each and everyone who joined us today, and our guest speaker who had managed to join us despite his busy schedule. Thank you very much, sir. We are really grateful to you.
Thank you for inviting, and already I have conveyed all my thanks to everyone. Thank you for all the practitioners, UG students, PG students, teachers, the faculty from Ayurveda who are present. So I would request everyone to take this Sharasutra ahead and practice it in your OPD, because it is one of the procedure which can be performed in the OPD, on the OPD basis, and definitely you can achieve results also.
Thank you, sir. We have now come to the end of the session. The sun sets in the evening today with the promise that it will rise again tomorrow. Here's hoping that the day comes will be a better tomorrow. See you all in the next session on Ayurveda Psychiatry in General Practice by Dr. Suhas Kumar Shetty, HOD and Professor, Department of Manasaroga, STM College of Ayurveda, Hassan, Karnataka, on 9th of June 2021. To know more about our updates, please do stay connected with our social platforms. That's all for today's most interesting session with lot of new information for us to close our eyes with thought-provoking knowledge. Meet you all in the next session. Until then, stay home, stay safe. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you.